come to order. Welcome to the fiscal year 2023 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Markup. Before we begin our work on this bill today, I would like to take a moment to express a shared sadness for Chairman Price after the loss of his wife, Lisa Price, earlier today. His leadership on this bill in subcommittee is not only a reflection of his commitment to the American people and furthering our nation's transportation and housing, but those back home in his district, including his beloved wife and family. We are thinking of him during this time and extend our support to him. I am proud to introduce on his behalf a bill that makes clear his commitment to advocating for civil rights, environmental protections, and safer communities, something we know his wife would also be proud of. I am joined by my good friend, Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, the ranking member, who is here in person today. I also want to welcome the full committee chair, Ms. Rosa DeLauro, ranking member, Ms. Granger, and all the subcommittee members who are here in person and those participating by secure video teleconference. Before I move to my opening statement, I'd like to offer a brief explanation of how this markup will work. As I mentioned, some members have opted to use secure video teleconferencing, which allows them to participate remotely. For those on video conference, once you start speaking, there will be a slight delay before you're displayed on the main screen. Speaking into the microphone activates the camera, displaying the speaker on the main screen. Do not stop your remarks if you do not immediately see the screen switch. If the screen does not change after several seconds, please make sure you are not muted. To minimize background noise and ensure the correct speaker is being displayed, we ask that the members who are participating by video remain on mute unless you have sought recognition. In terms of the speaking order, we will follow the traditional order, beginning with the vice chair and ranking member of the subcommittee, then the chair and ranking member of the full committee, and then any other members who wish to speak. Finally, we have set up an email address to which members can send anything they wish to submit in writing at any of our hearings or markups, including amendments, motions, other unanimous consent requests, and so on. That email address has been provided to your staff. I want to remind all members that they must verbally request unanimous consent out loud, separately from sending the document or written UC request to the email address. Now on to the opening statements. Today, the subcommittee will mark up the fiscal year 2023 Transportation and Housing Bill. Before I talk about some of the bill's highlights, I again like to take a moment to acknowledge Chairman Price and thank him for his steady leadership on this subcommittee. It has been an honor to work alongside him, and I know his impact will be felt long after this year. I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Diaz-Balart for his collaboration throughout this process, Chair of the full committee, Ms. DeLauro, for her leadership and stewardship of the committee, and the committee's distinguished ranking member, Ms. Granger. All members of this subcommittee from both sides of the aisle who contributed their ideas to help shape this bill, and the hard-working subcommittee staff who put this bill together. The bill we have before us today represents our commitment to the American people. The funding provided will improve transportation safety, address our nation's affordable housing and homelessness crisis, and protect vulnerable populations, especially those most likely to have been impacted by COVID, including communities of color, the unhoused, and LGBTQ+ individuals. In total, the bill includes $90.9 billion in discretionary funding, an increase of $9.9 billion over fiscal year 2022. On the transportation side, the bill provides a total of $105.4 billion in budgetary resources for DOT, an increase of $2.4 billion over fiscal year 2022, reflecting our continued commitment to modernization and safety across all modes of transportation. In line with the historic investment Congress made in our nation's transportation infrastructure last year through IIJA, the bill fully funds authorized levels for transit, highway, and safety formula grant programs. The bill also provides $646 million for transit infrastructure grants to help transit agencies purchase low and no emission buses, improve urban and rural ferry systems, adopt innovative approaches to mobility, and carry out local projects funded by member request. The bill also includes $3 billion for capital investment grants, an increase of $764 million over fiscal year 2022. This funding will help create new transit routes nationwide. I know from my own city, Chicago, we have been able to successfully use this program to transform our train and bus services, and thanks to IIJA, we were able to compete for funding on an ongoing basis to modernize our red and purple lines. This program will be key to continuing to improve and expand the Chicago Transit Authority systems. To help people safely connect to work, doctors' appointments, and other critical services, the bill provides $100 million for the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program, which will assist communities with developing their transportation networks to improve transportation access for all, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Along the same line, the bill provides $550 million for the Healthy Streets program to reduce the carbon footprint and make roadways safer for bus riders and pedestrians in low-income communities faced with extreme heat or other weather conditions. The bill takes great strides to invest in our nation's housing stock and the people who count on federal support for safe and stable housing. The bill provides $62.7 billion for HUD, an increase of $8.9 billion above 2022. Notably, the bill includes $600 million for the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS program to protect housing and services for more than 75,000 low-income people living with HIV or AIDS. This is an increase of $150 million, or 33% above fiscal year 2022, and $145 million above the President's budget request to ensure that no individual in this vulnerable population loses access to housing in 2023. I have long advocated for greater funding to support people living with HIV and AIDS, and I am pleased to see this reflected in the bill. The bill provides $1.7 billion for the Home Investment Partnerships Program to construct new affordable housing and includes $50 million for new down payment assistance programs to help first-generation home buyers purchase a home and help narrow the wealth gap. While we have seen a decline in sheltered homelessness from 21 to 22, the bill continues our commitment to reducing incidences and the scale of homelessness by making common sense investments. This includes $3.6 billion for homeless assistance grants, including dedicated support for survivors of domestic violence and youth facing or experiencing homelessness, and $1.1 billion to help more than 140,000 individuals and families get off lengthy wait lists and into housing. Finally, I'm proud to share the investment of this bill makes in a cleaner, brighter future for all. Combined, the bill provides over $2.6 billion in resources across many programs to address the pressing threat of climate change, make our country's transportation and housing infrastructure more resilient, and take bold steps toward equity. I am very pleased with how this bill will improve the lives of countless individuals across the country. We are taking action to expand safe and affordable housing and build equitable transportation networks throughout the nation. I look forward to discussing these issues and more in coming days. At this time, I would yield to the ranking member, Mr. Diaz-Balart, for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quigley, for your statement and also for presenting the TIHA bill to our subcommittee on behalf of Chairman Price. I also want to thank you for those heartfelt statements about Mr. Price. All of us were heartbroken to hear the passing of Lisa, Chairman Price's wife for over 50 years. I hope that David knows that this whole committee is here for him and for his family, and they're in this very difficult moment. You know, David Price and I have been working on this THUD bill now for nearly 8 years. Not only has he demonstrated that he is an honorable, straightforward man, he's been a great partner, and he's become a good friend. Mr. Quigley, I'm going to leave most of my remarks for full committee, but I do want to just mention a few things. The chairman considered thousands of member requests, and I appreciate that he accommodated, frankly, many of those requests. Chairman Price listened to stakeholders and members and developed a number of innovative ideas in this bill. And so I will, again, in full committee, mention some of those ideas, some of those things that the chairman inserted in this bill, which I think are very, very good. And so while I agree with many of the decisions and investments in this bill, we all know that these bills were written under, not just this bill, all of the appropriation bills were written under, frankly, an unrealistic top line, decided unilaterally by the majority. And unfortunately, I want to be very clear that I cannot support this bill at its current spending levels, despite the fact that it obviously has some really good decisions in it. The bill as written is frankly just excessive, with an overall increase of 12% above last year. And by the way, for HUD, it's an increase of 17%. This enabled, for example, $1.1 billion increase for housing choice, for the housing choice voucher program. This expansion, obviously, which sounds nice, it sounds good, of rental assistance will multiply over future years and end up costing the taxpayers tens of billions of dollars in future years. It really almost kind of becomes like mandatory spending. And as everybody knows, inflation is at a 40-year high, and families are hurting. They're struggling. And contrary to many talking points often used by the majority, we cannot address inflation by spending more money. Every year, however, this committee shows that we can get our work done once a bipartisan top-line agreement is in place. And I'm confident that this year will be no different, that once we get that agreement, we will get to work, and I'm eager to work with Chairman Price and with all of the colleagues in this subcommittee so that this bill can really be a capstone to an amazing career of a person that we all respect and cherish, and that is Chairman David Price. I would be remiss if I didn't thank, for their leadership and their presence here today, the full committee chairwoman and the ranking member of the full committee. Thank you for your leadership. And again, Mr. Quigley, as I said, I will have more thorough remarks during the full committee. Thank you for the time, and I yield back.
I want to thank the ranking member. I now yield to the full committee chair, Rosa DeLauro, for her remarks.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Quigley, and thank you to the ranking member, Mr. Diaz-Balart. I, too, would like to take a moment to recognize the profound sadness and heartbreak so many of us feel right now. Chairman Price's wife, Lisa, she passed this morning in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and as Chairman Price said in his statement today, Lisa was his partner and supporter in everything he undertook. Lisa was also a dear friend of the DeLauro family, stemming from her time serving alongside my mother on the New Haven Board of Aldermen. It was a great partnership. We are indebted to her decades of service, and where she fought for gun violence, fighting it, advancing civil rights, protecting our climate, supporting our children. Our nation and the world are a better place because of Lisa Price. And so my deepest and heartfelt condolences go out to the chairman and their children, Karen and Michael, and the entire family. I also want to specifically thank Chairman Price for his principled stewardship of this committee, his visionary leadership on the world stage, and work to address our nation's affordable housing and infrastructure crises reflect a deep commitment to the safety and the well-being of the people of this nation and the world. We will miss him dearly on his retirement. Turning to today's markup, let me just say a thank you to you, Vice Chair Quigley, for taking over, and again, Ranking Member Diaz-Balart, for your bipartisan partnership within the subcommittee, and the members of the subcommittee for your work on the bill, and the subcommittee staff for your tireless efforts in putting the bill together. Through the 2022 federal spending package, we fought to secure transformative federal investments that help us to fight inflation, lower the cost of living, create jobs, support working families. But Americans across the country are still living with the consequences of our crumbling transportation infrastructure and an aging housing stock. While this Congress was able to propel historic investments with the enactment of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to improve our roads, bridges, transit systems, our annual duty to pay our transportation workers, improve the safety of our roads, and improve the nation's affordable housing stock, that still remains. As Chairman Price says, the HUD bill is an infrastructure bill, and we enact it not once every 5 years, but we enact it every single year. Also last year, we introduced community project funding requests that have already begun to make a critical difference in the lives of people and in the infrastructure that surrounds them. This bill before us includes an astonishing nearly 2,000 requests, and I'm proud that we're able to accommodate the vast majority of requests from members on both sides of the aisle that will make our community stronger and our infrastructure safer. The bill is also deeply personal to me because it truly has the power to change lives, especially the lives of some of our most vulnerable Americans. As a young girl, 9 years old, I vividly remember arriving home one evening to find all of our furniture and our belongings on the street. My parents worked hard all their lives, but they struggled financially all of their lives. My parents worked hard to ensure that I could have the best education, but they did fall on hard times, and we were evicted from our home. We moved in with my grandmother while we got back on our feet. This eviction turned our world upside down, and our displacement left lasting scars. That is also why, through this bill, I've worked to get a national evictions database funded, and which is currently underway, because we have no way to track these displacements. How can we support those who have fallen on hard times if we have no way to track them? Affording a safe home and living with access to reliable transportation is essential to our growth and accessing opportunity. These are basic needs, but they are needs that are out of reach for too many families across this nation. Which is why I am proud that this bill strengthens access to affordable housing for our most vulnerable. We are continuing to serve 5 million people through critical housing programs, such as public housing and the Housing Voucher Program, and providing funding for 140,000 new housing vouchers for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness, with an additional funding for 5,600 new units for seniors and people with disabilities. And we continue to support state and local efforts to revitalize displaced neighborhoods while improving the living conditions of those in public and low-income housing and constructing new and rehabilitating existing affordable housing. We also support homeowners and expanding opportunities for those looking to own a home. Owning a home is at the very core of the American dream, but it feels out of reach for so many middle-class Americans. This bill expands support for manufactured housing homeowners and down payment assistance opportunities for new homeowners. We know that just having a roof over your head is not enough. No place can ever be home unless we feel safe within it. This bill promotes safety by funding critical maintenance and improvement projects, including the continued remediation of lead paint and radon. Plain and simple, these investments save lives, they keep us all safer. Strengthening and sustaining the reliability of our transportation infrastructure is good for our communities. It is part of how we confront the climate crisis and fight inflation. And in the process, we are also creating good-paying American jobs that lift up our communities, expand opportunities for low-income and working Americans, and push our economic development forward. And as we make all these changes, we do so recognizing the historical inequities in these same transportation and housing programs. So we will continue to fight for equity as we make our infrastructure more resilient for generations to come. This bill makes much-needed investments that will grow opportunity and make a real difference in the lives of Americans, and I am proud to support it. Again, I thank Chairman Price, Vice Chair Quigley, Ranking Member Diaz-Balart, and I urge my colleagues to support this legislation, and I yield back.
Thank you, Chair. I now yield to the full committee ranking member, Ms. Granger, for her remarks.
Thank you for that. Thank you, my good friend Diaz-Balart, for having us think about what's happening right now. You know, we all work together. We build these bills that are so important, but we also work together and sometimes as a family. And so thank you all for the recognition that we're all, I know we're thinking about Chairman Price. This is important because has programs that'll keep our roads and our airways safe and invest in critical assets like ports and airports. It's a very important bill. Some of the housing investment in the bill will provide crucial support to our most vulnerable citizens. This includes homeless veterans and the elderly and the disabled. However, I'm deeply concerned by the dramatic funding increases on this bill that expand the reach of the federal government and could add to our record high inflation. I think we need to look at all of our spending and make sure that this is the most important thing we can do, but that we recognize the cost. The funding in the bill for rail and transit is in addition to the hundreds of billions already provided over the last year outside of the appropriations process. The bill gives HUD programs double-digit percentages of increases, and while I support programs that help our most vulnerable citizens, we can't afford a dramatic expansion of housing subsidies. American families are really struggling to make ends meet due to record high inflation, and we have to find ways to rein in government spending so we don't make the problem worse. As we move forward with this year's appropriations bill, we have to agree to set aside controversial policies, retain language from prior years, and get consensus on top-line funding levels. I think once that framework is in place, I'm confident that Chairman and Ranking Member can work to modify this bill so we can responsibly meet the transportation and housing needs of the American people. I know we can do this. We work together, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
I want to thank the ranking member. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the bill? Ms. Torres?
Thank you, Chairman Quigley. I just want to take a brief moment to also join you and Chairwoman DeLauro and everyone else who has spoken in sending my thoughts and prayers to Chairman Price and his family during this very difficult time. I also want to send condolences on behalf of my community as a whole. Chairman Price came out to my district, toured it, and really took the time to understand the needs of my community. He was so much appreciated that Mayor Aquanetta Warren of the city of Fontana gave him the key to the city because we had never seen this type of involvement in a member of Congress, a chairman of such an important committee, to come out and see the challenges that we are facing as an inland port. So he will be absolutely missed as he is missed today. I support this bill 100%. There is so much in this bill to help our communities continue to recover, not only from this terrible pandemic, but to recover from this homeless crisis, you know, that we are seeing increase every single year. I am glad to see the funding for all 6 of my community projects. You know, last year, about 70% of community projects came out of this committee. So imagine the work that it took from, you know, both the ranking member, the chairman, and all of their staffs that worked to help those priorities move forward. I just want to recognize, you know, the fact that the employees of this committee, on a bipartisan way, worked so hard to meet the needs of the American people. And with that, I'll yield back.
Any other members wish to speak on the bill? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the bill? Seeing none, I would like to recognize Ms. Clark for a motion.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move the bill be favorably reported to the full committee.
The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the vice chair, the ayes have it. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be permitted to make technical and conforming changes to the bill and report just approved. Seeing no objections, so ordered. The motion is agreed to. Please leave all copies of your bill and report on the desk. With that, the meeting stands adjourned.